Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, I'm going to be looking at my top 10 party games of 2022. Some years, like last year, party games are very light. There was just like one party game I wanted to highlight. This year, 2022 was such a great year, and it was excellent for party games. There's 10 great party games that have come out, and I'm sure there's plenty more that I haven't played. So I'm going to show you these 10 party games, so here we go.
Number 10.
All right, this first one is called Stella. Now this is based off of the Dixit system. Dixit is a popular game where it has these cards with this very interesting interpretive artwork. And this is my favorite game of that Dixit series because each game, each round there's a word and someone can pick, there's all these cards with different words on them. They'll pick one of the two words. And there's a grid of cards out there of the artwork. And everybody is trying to figure out which of these cards go with this word. And as you're looking at that, it's very interpretive, but you're trying to figure out, and you're sort of like not betting, but you're saying, I think there's maybe 3 of them. Some might say, I think there's 5. I think there's 6, right? And so then you're highlighting on your little board secretly which of those that you think are it. And then when it comes around to your turn, you're going to pick one. But this is an interesting thing. I've always liked this mechanism in party games. I think Mr. Lister's Quiz Shootout does this really well, where when you pick one, you want to pick one that you think is the best, most likely that at least one other person picked. Because if you pick it and someone else has it, you're going to score points, okay? But if you pick one and nobody has it, you're out for the round and you can't score any more points, period. And so you've got this little thing, you're like, this isn't what I'm most sure about. And then you're going around and you keep going in circles until you don't have any that haven't been matched yet. And then another clever thing is like the person who said the most, you can't just break the game and go, I think 10 of them have it. Because if you don't get through the round all the way, it's hard. There's some negative things that happen with your score. And so if you like Dixit, this is sort of another competitive game in that realm. But it has a very interesting way of deciding the scoring and how you select things is a very interesting way. So if you like Dixit at all, this has sort of replaced Dixit for me, and that's Stella.
Number 9.
This next one, speaking of Dixit, is a game from Van Ryder Games called Keepers. And let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Keepers is a beautiful game for clever people, where players will try to outwit their opponents by playing a card from their hand after hearing only a single word. Everyone will vote on which card aligns with the most or the least with the word, and whichever card gets the most votes is a keeper. Each player takes a turn as curator, choosing one word that's not a noun to describe a card in their hand and announcing it. For example, you might have this beautiful waterfall in your hand and give the clue slippery. All other players select a card in their hand that is either most like slippery or least like it. Then the selected cards are shuffled and displayed. Everyone will secretly vote on any card other than their own that they want to vote for. For example, there are many good cards for slippery, so this player voted for red, number 1, meaning they think it's least slippery. Where these two players voted green for number 2, thinking it was most slippery. And since number 2 has the most green votes for being most slippery, that card is a keeper and worth a point at the end of the game for the player that played that card. For the red votes that were least slippery, there was a tie for the most votes, so they're both keepers, so the owners of number 1 and number 5 would score their cards as keepers. Once everyone has had a turn to be the curator, the game ends and the one with the most keeper cards wins. Yeah, it's very clever that this is similar to Dixit, but at the same time feels very different. Again, it's photography, not artwork, but also the idea of that you could give a clue and purposely go something in the opposite direction, or you could just, when someone gives a clue, you could go the opposite direction on the clue they gave. You can also, when voting, you could be like, this one is not like this one is like this. And I like that because it gives you the flexibility to have it more of a gamer party game, but still have it be pretty light. Like you can still play this with people that don't play a lot of games, but it gives people that play a lot of games ways and levers to do things that you can't normally do in these light games. It gives you different creative outlets, different ways to think about things, different ways. So I like it because for me, it's taken Dixit and it does it in a better way, if you will, and that's Keepers.
Number 8.
This next one is called Ansagrams. Now, this is a party game that would be a style of party game that my mom used to call couch games, where you don't even have to be sitting at a table. You can all be kind of hanging out or in the living room, and you can all be playing this together. In this one, it's very interesting because each round there'll be a host, and that host will read off 5 different questions. Now, each of those questions will have a single answer. And as you're answering them, usually we just give everyone a little piece of paper and a pen. As you're answering them, you write down your answer. At the end, the first letter of each of your 5 answers, if you've gotten them all right, should unscramble into something. For example, what eyewear do swimmers wear? Do swimmers use? Think of that. What eyewear do swimmers use? Think of the answer. Think of the first letter. Maybe write it down if you have a piece of paper. What 3-letter word describes someone feeling sick or ill? Again, think about that. Write down that down. Keep track of the first letter. Who is Darth Vader's son? The first name, of course. What instrument is named after a 3-sided shape? A 3-sided shape. What instrument? Again, write it down. What part of Shakira's body doesn't lie? Now, at any time, as I'm reading these, you could yell out the answer. And the answer is, again, the first letter of all 5 questions, and you unscramble them. And so someone might get it before you even get to the end, and they can yell it out. If they get it right, they get the card. If they don't, they're out of the round, right? And you get the cards, and you're doing set collection with cards, and there's a way to win depending on which card you collect. It's really fun. This one is a blast. By the way, did you get the answer? Did you get it? It was light, L-I-G-H-T, because eyewear was goggles, sick was ill, I-L-L, Darth Vader's son is Luke, the 3-sided shape is a triangle, and Shakira's body was hips. So if you unscramble those, that spell light, L-I-G-H-T. This game's a blast. Ansagrams.
Number 7.
All right, this next one was a Spiel des Jahres nominee this year called Top 10. Now, this is sort of a loosey-goosey party game. You got to be pretty silly with this. A situation will come up, and a card will say something like, explain to your boss why you should have a raise. And you're going to do this on a scale from 0, which is like not very convincing, to 10, which is very convincing, right? So that player will then go. Now each player has a number from 1 to 10. And so if you have a 10, you're gonna have to act this out in like very convincing. If you have a 1, little convincing, and everywhere in between. So you'll act it out. Anybody can go at any time, and they're trying to slot themselves in based upon what other players have done. So if someone just went like really crazy, but I know I have a 10, I know I have to go even crazier than that. And so it's really interesting like that. And in the end, the other person, much like what I just talked about in Stella earlier, again, it has that mechanism where the player is trying to select in order from 1 to 10 where to go. So you're like, oh, this player was the least. You're 1, and then they flip it over. Okay, you're probably next. They flip it over to 3, and you're like, was the 2 out there? It might be, it might not. I might be screwing up. And then you're trying to go in order and order and order. At some point, you'll get to a point where you mess up, and then you sort of clear the cards and you start over, and you get a certain amount of points depending on how you did. It's a fun game. You got to have the right group for it if you want to be silly and stuff. And picking the order and trying to slot yourself in is a fun thing. It's top 10.
Number 6.
This next one is a small little game called Ole Guacamole. And in this game, you're going to flip over a letter. And the first player is going to mention any word that does not have that letter in it. Then you flip over a card. There'll be another letter, sometimes multiple letters. And you're going to, the next player has to say a word that does not have any of those letters and has something to do with the previous word said. Okay, if they get it, next player goes, flips over a card. Great, now they got 4 or 5 letters that they can't use, and they have to say something that the player before them said, something somehow creatively tied to it. You only have 12 seconds to do this. And it's crazy because your brain just sticks. Because you're like, you see these letters and immediately your brain starts thinking of words that have those letters, but you have to think of words that don't have those letters. It makes it backwards. There's also some special cards that when it comes up, like, oh, you get to pick who does it. Pick one, oh, it skips over you. Pick one's up, oh, it goes in the opposite direction. Things like that. But it's really fun. And if you screw up, you collect all the cards, you start again. you can play the deck's over. Who has the least amount of cards wins. It's really fun. It's entertaining. It's a blast. And it makes your head hurt, and it makes you laugh at yourself because you screw up. It does put you on pressure, so if you don't like pressure games, you're going to the gun, everyone's looking at you. But it's a really fun little quick game, Oli Guacamole.
Number 5.
This next one is a newer one that I just got recently, but it is fantastic. It's called Wheels versus Doors. And this is one where it has some similarities to Wits and Wagers, one of the best party games of all time. And that's why this is on this list, because it's special in that way. Where there's going to be a card that's going to say something like, how many movies has The Rock been in versus how many stairs are in the White House, you know? And so usually these are in ways that are like somewhat close in some regard. But on each card, there's 5 different things. And so 2 random cards are drawn. It's like, oh, we're doing number 2, number 5. Okay, it's these 2 things. Everyone is going to bet on which one there's more of. And you're going to bet with poker chips. And so you bet. Now, if you're right, you get a certain amount of cards depending on the chips you put there. Now, these cards are 50% possibly wheels, 50% possibly doors. You get them. So you go to a next round. You can bet more chips. Now, betting chips is interesting because you got to figure out how many you want to bet. Because if you're wrong, the amount of chips that you bet, you have to get rid of that many cards. So I might have and you're trying to be the first to get to 10 wheels or 10 doors. I might have 7 wheels, 3 doors. I'm like, I can bet 3 at least, because even if I'm wrong, I can just get rid of the 3 doors and I'll still have my 7 wheels. And so it's very interesting because what you want to bet is different depending on what cards you have won in the past. And that aspect is really clever. And then it has the whole number aspect of Wits and Wagers. It's really it's clever, and the whole betting aspect. So if you liked Wits and Wagers, you want something that's probably even easier to teach, that has that sort of betting element, Wheels versus Doors is a great one.
Number 4.
This next one is Fun Facts. Now this is done by Repos Production, the same team that published Just One and So Clover. This is the lightest of the bunch. This is a fantastic icebreaker, get to know you style party game. It's super light. There'll be a question like, how many years would you take off your life to become a billionaire? And so everyone will secretly write that down and put it face down. And then one player will start. They just put their little thing in the middle of the table, has their name on it, has their answer on the back. The next player has to slot themselves if they think they would give up more or less than the player before, and they put it above or below. Then the next player goes. They can slot it anywhere, below all of them, above all of them, or in between any of them. So you're trying to slot yourself, would I give up more years of my life than this person and this person and that person? And if you don't know these people, it's okay. You probably won't do well, but it's the thought and the fact that once you flip it over all the numbers, and once you're done, you flip them over, and you're trying to go in sequential order. So hey, this one said 2 years, this one said 10 years, this one said 4 years. Oh, if you don't go in sequential order, you just remove that one, you keep going. All the ones that are there, you get a point for each of them. At the end, you just score points like, hey, I got a 50, whoopee, right? It's more about the get to know you and the talking afterwards of thinking about what what you'd give up 20 years really? Oh, I thought you'd give up more, stuff like that. Or if you know people, the game's awesome, and if you don't know people, it's awesome too because you probably won't do really well. It doesn't matter because it's all about the talking and learning about people at the end of each card. So you play a certain amount of cards, and after it's done, the game's over. It's a really great. It's probably the best icebreaker party game I have now. Fun Facts.
Number 3.
This next one is a game that is not distributed in North America. In fact, I had to get this game from the UK, and this is called Secret Identity. It's brought to us by Hachette Board Games, and their North American distribution center is not carrying this as of now. I'm trying to get them to pick it up because it's so good. In this game, there's 8 cards out there of different people. And everyone has these picto cards that basically have 2 pictures on one side and 2 different pictures on the other side. And you are trying to come up with, you can play up to 3 cards. However, the game's only a certain amount of rounds and you never get more cards. So you can play between 1 and 3 cards per round, but you want to be as judicious as possible because towards the end, you're going to get less and less cards and you want to have some more options. So that's interesting. So for example, if you look at this picture here, you've got an octopus, a bath, and water, and skull. And so in this case, they're all on green, which means the person I'm trying to get you to guess it has something to do with all of these. But you might put them in red and go, it does not have to do with this, or is the opposite of this. So it gives you things like that. So, is it Zeus or Sleeping Beauty or J.K. Rowling or Edward Scissorhands or Jack Dawson from the Titanic, Louis XIV, the Sun King, or Stephen Hawking or Frankenstein, And, you look at this and you're like, octopuses in the water, bath in water, skull and crossbones, people died, must have been from the Titanic. Maybe it's Dawson, right? And so everyone's going to sort of put this key hiddenly in that person's board. Once everyone has guessed everyone secretly, we go around, we flip the board up, you see if you're right. For every guess someone said of yours right, you get a point, and for everyone that you guessed right, you get a point. So you're just trying to get people to guess yours right and guess other people's right. It's a blast. This is a fantastic game. I mean, I played this with my game group, and at the end of the night, every one of these people got together and did like an order from overseas, because it's the only way you get it now, in one big box and got all the games because they all loved it that much. That's saying a lot because they play a lot of games with me. So this one's fantastic. Secret Identity.
Number 2.
This next one came out earlier in the year, and for almost the whole, at least half the year, I thought this was going to be my party game of the year. This is called Phantom Inc. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Phantom Inc. is a team versus team word-based party game where your team's clue giver will know the single word that both you and the other team's trying to get, but you're going to be giving them questions to answer, and you're going to be learning a little bit about what that word is. So you'll be secretly asking a question to your clue giver. So let's say the key word this round was flag, and you gave them this. And they'll begin to give you a clue one letter at a time. And when you think you know what they're talking about, you say Silencio. And when you say that, they finish their letter and they stop, because maybe they were trying to tell you that the flag waves. But the other teams can see this too, but they don't know what question you're answering. Maybe the other team secretly is trying to give them what's an incorrect way to use it, and they'll be beginning to say something like burn, and they say silencio. So between them thinking they know that it's something that you don't burn, and maybe it's something that they wave, as you learn more and more clues, you'll hopefully be the first one to get the word right and win the game. The finished game, it might look like this, where the word was binocular, and we were saying certain things like General Custer, glass, lens, spy, distance, light, Texas, different things of different questions that help them get to binoculars. This game is just so clever. If you like word-based party games, if you like games like Codenames and like Decrypto, Crosstalk, things like that, you're gonna like this one a lot. It's just really clever and if you play the game, dim the lights, light a candle, play some sort of like eerie music in the back, it really sets the tone for the game as well. And the way that you write the letter and you're doing it slow enough they can see what you're writing, and you want to see if they're gonna say silencio and to stop you, it's really clever because you know which question you know which question it is, but the other team doesn't. And based upon that, you might be knowing what your teammate is writing. And based on that, you might be able to guess what the other team is writing, even though you don't know their question. It's such a clever thing that you're trying to like read through things and deduce things. You're trying to get it right. And then the fact that with the turn order, you get to have someone else, write more letters. It is such a clever team versus team word-based deductive party game. It's fantastic, and I hope this brings more attention to it and it sells more copies, because I think the game should be out in more people's houses. This is a fantastic one, Phantom Inc.
Number 1.
All right, here we are, number 1 party game of the year. Now this one, okay. So it's hard for me to travel right now. I've got 3 really old dogs. All of them have health issues. One's blind, one's deaf, one has a really bad foot right now. It's really hard for me to travel generally. And I almost was not going to go to Gen Con. And the week before Gen Con, I started looking through the preview list and I saw this game, Ready, Set, Bet, from John D. Clare and AEG. And I looked into it and I went, oh my gosh, this game looks like it's going to be like a cross between Panic on Wall Street and like Camel Up, And I'm like, wow, this looks like it's going to be amazing. And I was like, hey, contact AEG. I was like, this is going to be there. I was like, well, we're going to have a press event. You'll be able to see it and play it. We don't know if we'll have any copies there. And that alone made me book my ticket to Gen Con. And it's a big deal for me to travel, and it's very expensive. And I got there, and I had a chance to play this with the designer, John D. Clare, the AEG folks, my buddies from Man vs. Meeple, and things like that. Check out this really quick clip of what this game feels like, this real-time horse race betting game that makes you feel like you're at the races.
Oh, there's a Snake Eyes moving along. There's another 9 in the second place.
Come on, 9.
10 advancing.
Yes, 10.
There's another 9.
No.
There's an 8 back into the lead. 10 trying to gain. 10 with a bonus.
No.
7. There's another 8.
Oh,
coming
no.
in. There's a 7. No
7.
one cares.
Who cares about 7?
11, 12. Needs a bonus.
Go
Doesn't
eight.
get a 2, 3 way at the
Go
back.
eight. Come
There's
on.
an 8.
8.
2 more to go. 11, 12 needs a bonus.
No,
Not gonna
no,
get it.
11, 12.
4, 5 needs something here. 10.
From watching that, you will know whether you're absolutely going to love this game or it's not for you. There is no medium ground with this game. You're going to love it or you're going to hate it. And almost everybody I played this with, and I played this with a ton of people, all love it. It is an experience like none other. It is a game that is just, I can see myself playing this forever. It's so good. The fact that you can play a very basic game with no prop bets, no special VIP abilities, no special endings, and just teach people the basic game. But if you're playing with gamers and you add those prop bets and you add the VIP special abilities, you add the special end game bets, there is so much going on, so much thinking going on in real time. You're trying to calculate all these things in your head, but you got to do it fast because other people might take the spot you want. There's pressure there. There's a lot of yelling and screaming like you just saw, people yelling at the horses. It creates an experience like no other game does. Panic on Wall Street did this too, but this just is more fun. It really has not replaced Panic on Wall Street because I like the aspect of the negotiation of that. But from an experience standpoint, I can't think of another game that does what this game does. And on top of all that, I love running the game. I love being the announcer. I've even come up with horse names that have to do with the numbers and make it all fun. Now the rules have a way that you could bet as the house. It's not as fun. But with the app that they released, I can run the game with the app, put a laptop or an iPad up there, and have the thing rolling the dice and playing music like in between. But then I can mute the announcer and I can announce. So now I can announce the game. I don't have to worry about the rolling. I can just announce it and I can bet like a normal player. So you have a lot of flexibility with this game. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable. If you like party games, again, by watching that video, you should know if this game is for you. This is a very special game that is going to be around for decades in my collection. And I'll probably be playing it forever because it's just so fun. Ready, set, bet. All right, well, there was my top 10 party games of the year. I hope this helped you put some games on your radar that you probably had not heard of, and maybe helped you learn a little bit more about games that maybe you had heard about a little bit. It's been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, and helping you on the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge for their latest Game Topper 3.5 Kickstarter campaign.